So this week's episode, we welcome Raj to the podcast. Welcome, Raj.
Thanks very much, Paul. I appreciate it.
No, thank you. And I think there'll be a lot of interesting stuff with this one because of all the things that you've done, which obviously the listeners and viewers won't know about yet. But having seen the information you sent through, I think it's really impressive all the things you've done. But we'll get into that stuff. So tell us about yourself and how we've ended up talking. Where did all
But,
fit? Tell me anything. Just
yeah. No, I mean, I'm 27 now. I play golf right now as my job. I play full time professionally, so it's kind of like playing minor league baseball. I would liken it to that. So basically, trying to make it. I've been playing for 4 years now after college, and then in high school, I lived in the Netherlands for 6 years for my dad's job.
yeah.
So with the flying, we went all over really back and forth home to Atlanta, Georgia is where I'm from. So we just go back and forth multiple times a year, no problems. And yeah, I mean, I guess in terms of where the fear of flying started, I could go into that if that works. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was in college. This is like 2015 and going on a small connecting to Atlanta from Greenville, where I was in college, Greenville, South Carolina, and it was a really stormy night. And he was like, "Hey, this is a small plane." I think it was on the plane I was on yesterday, a CRJ 900, and he was like, "This is a small plane. It's gonna be pretty bad." And I was like, "Whatever." And but no, it was pretty scary, I guess. Being late at night, I couldn't really see what's going on.
Right.
And then so I was like, wow, I really didn't like that. I got to Amsterdam, told my parents, like, that was really rough. And like, my dad's like, oh, it's fine. He goes, he travels a ton. And then I came back and went on another small plane about 6 months later, and it was bumpy again. And I was like, okay, I don't like this. I'm done with it.
Yeah.
And then going home to Amsterdam was a huge deal ever since then.
Yeah. When you say it was sort of bumpy and stuff, are you talking about kind of being very turbulent then, was it?
Yeah, just like pretty bad turbulence, I guess, on a smaller plane. So you obviously feel it more than on the big one.
Yeah, I've always said that. You do sort of like move about quite a bit more, don't you? Yeah.
Seems like it at least, but it
We
was
still
also
address this small shit, you know?
yeah,
You-
exactly.
So you just had, not saying just, but you had turbulence, was it? And it was at
That
night.
was
You couldn't work.
yeah. I mean, it was just the turbulence. That was it. That was the only thing that really bothered me. Uh, it was not the night flying, and there was nothing crazy that happened or anything like that.
So it's amazing, isn't it? That and you didn't have it beforehand. You weren't bothered when you got on the flight, and then when you had the experience, that's kind of rocked you. Then 6 months later, same things happened again, and
And it really wasn't even that bad. It was like 5 minutes.
mm, well, what sort of went through your head then that made you think, "I'm not doing that again"?
I just didn't know what it was. Really, I think was the biggest thing. No idea. And I had it before where, I was in Thailand traveling for a service trip and it was kind of bumpy. And I remember my friends were kind of laughing about it. And I was like, I don't really like this. But it wasn't like, I'm never going to do this again. It was like, I didn't really like that. And that's it.
Right? Okay. So off you went to the Netherlands. What happened then?
Yeah. So came back and just came back from Holland and there was no big issue. Um, and then it's just like I said, the small plane I took 6 months later and then I just couldn't do it. So then going back and forth was a huge deal until I basically finally was like, I'm not going to do this anymore. This was sophomore year at college in 2017. And I said, I'm never going to do it again. And
So what was the
yeah,
impact on you at that point in terms of the rest of your life?
well, I couldn't, I would not go home to see my family in Holland basically because they went to Italy with my dad's extended family. And I said, no, I'm not doing that. And I had tournaments I wanted to go play, and I said, I'm not doing that. Um, I went on one in 2019 to the UK, and I had to basically take like a full Ambien and really grinded to just try and sleep through it.
So
After that, yeah, and then after that, I avoided it for until 2022. So all of the peak of the pandemic, basically.
yeah.
And yeah,
So
It
What
was pretty fun.
Yeah, because you mentioned tournaments and stuff, so does that mean that you were able to compete at all?
Yeah, so I would try and qualify for the Latin tour when I first turned pro in like 2020 or Canada. And I knew in the back of my mind, I was like, I really don't want to get through this because I don't want to have to get on those planes. So I was like, yeah, I was trying, but I wasn't really, in the back of my mind, I was like, I really don't want to succeed right now because I can't get on a plane. So I, you know, and then so I didn't play well for the first 2 years of being a pro. I was not at all motivated because I was like, it doesn't matter if I play well because I'm not going to go to anything. So what is really the point?
That's interesting, isn't it? That it completely could have completely ruined your professional career.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's
Did anyone know why you were kind of not playing at your best? Maybe.
no one, and just my dad kind of had a suspicion because it was also like, okay, I played D1 Division 1, but I walked on. So it's like, okay, maybe it's a slow start to the professional career because you weren't, playing all 4 years in college. But like deep down, my dad knew. He's like, you don't really want to do this, do you, right now? And I was like, no, I don't. There's no way I'm getting on a plane to go to Argentina. Um, Not with anyone, and certainly not by myself.
Yeah, yeah. Crikey. All right. So we get a sense of the impact. So what was a turning point that made you decide to do something about it?
Yeah, so I tried to go on a plane 2022 up to see my parents in Michigan. They're living in the US now. And so I flew from Orlando. We were in Florida, my girlfriend and it was super smooth flight. And I was like, I dreaded it for about a month, but I got up there and it was super smooth. And I was like, wow, I'm cured. This is easy. Like I just had to do one flight. And then I met my girlfriend's family was doing a vacation in Denver. So then I flew from Detroit over to Denver and it was, just like light turbulence the whole time. And I realized I was like, no, I'm not fixed. I can't do this actually. So I get to Denver and I'm like, I think I have to stop again. I'm never gonna fly again. But the turning point would have been last year in April when my parents and I and my girlfriend were kind of like, how are you gonna play golf if this is not realistic. You can't chase this like dream basically and kid yourself. So I got on a plane with my dad and my mom to Phoenix and I took like, half a Xanax, shut my eyes and gritted my teeth. But I did it after listening to the podcast basically and doing some of the stuff in my list that I've got in front of me. But I still was like, maybe I can get better at this.
Yeah. Okay. So just to rewind a little bit, I'm always curious when people have this like good experience. So you took a flight and you were like, oh, so how on earth are you able to be suddenly okay for one flight and then not again? I've never understood how the brain does that. What's your thing?
Well, I think being with my dad who travels a ton helped because like if it was, it was relatively like a little bit of turbulence early and he's like, fine. And I was 27 years old. I'm holding my dad's hand. It was embarrassing. And my mom is scared of flying, but she flies a ton and I've kind of sent her some of this stuff because she flies a ton and still has a fear. So I'm trying to help her as well. But I don't know. I think just being with someone helps.
Okay. Understood. All right. So you decided then, you had this moment. What was the very first thing that you did to start helping yourself?
So the first thing I did was when I first started to try early 2023, I bought the solar program and because I didn't know about this podcast, I bought the solar program and it was helpful, I guess. Not super helpful though. Like it's pretty expensive if you get the full thing. And I was like, yeah, fine, $500, it's worth it. And the problem I had with it, it was a little bit outdated and it wasn't really that uh, helpful to actually apply. How am I going to actually help me get on a plane?
Right.
Um, and I started doing some like I read The Easy Way to Fly by Alan Carr.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was again, these two things like kind of made me feel good in the moment of like, oh yeah, that's cool. I can do this. And then the next day I wake up and I have an image of a plane like, no, I'm not doing that. There's no way I'm getting on a plane.
Right.
Like, so
Okay.
yeah.
And then what? So you did the sort of thing, did Alan Carr's Easy Way, because some people that's been enough. They've read that book. But it just goes to show it's not the same thing for everybody, is it? Then what do you do?
Well, I saw this guy named Christopher Paul Jones. He's in the UK. He's like a breakthrough specialist. So I saw some of his ads on YouTube, and it was like he was on BBC, and it was like cured fear of flying in 7 minutes. And I was like, too good to be true. So I clicked on it, and I was like, all right, screw it. I'll reach out to him. So I did 4 sessions with him, and he does kind of like EMDR and all that kind of stuff, and hypnotherapy, and um, he was super nice guy, and I read his book, but again, I still didn't feel like I could even get on a plane.
Right.
Um, so I did that. I did Captain Ron's class online.
Oh,
He had that audio, that harmonizer audio, which I guess was kind of helpful to distract you a little bit, but still didn't really feel like my fear was getting any better. I did the EasyJet online course, and I did this EMDR woman in town as well. So then I was like,
you've invested quite a lot of time and money then, haven't you?
but yeah, that's why honestly I thought it'd be interesting for me to come on and speak about it because I've tried all of them. And then I heard someone on your podcast say they started listening to something every day.
Okay, I know something. So what point did the podcast arrive in your life?
Pretty late, I think, pretty late on. I was just driving or not. I was about to go on a long drive to a tournament, and I was like, let me just type in fear of flying into like the Apple podcast, and this popped up. And I clicked on it, and then I started listening to some of the stories, and I was like, man, I'm not the only one out there.
Hmm.
Like it's embarrassing. Not many people know about it. It's just my family, my girlfriend, like a couple close friends. But I thought it was just me, or like a very small group of people. But there's normal people out there just like me that have or had this fear. And then I click on the podcast and I start going through them, and someone says listen to it every day. That's what fixed them. I don't know who it was. I forgot. But then I was like, all right, just gonna try this last ditch effort. If this doesn't work, I mean, I've exhausted. I also did virtual reality. That was another thing, a headset.
All right.
Uh,
Very good.
Kind of cool, I guess. It was cool. It doesn't really create the anxiety that it really does getting on a plane. So then anyways, I started doing the podcast, and I just said I'm gonna listen to all of them. I listen to them every day, um, and just keep doing it and see what happens. And so a couple months ago, I went with my parents we went for a tournament in Abaco in the Bahamas. So at that point, I had been doing it a little bit and it started to get a little bit better. And so I was like, okay, maybe I can actually do this. And so this summer, I had been listening to it for months, basically. And I finally got on a plane with my dad and I felt way better than I have ever before.
Wow.
Then the last month and a half, I've probably done 20 flights to Europe. Yeah, no, it was a busy month. My girlfriend and I went to Europe for vacation, a couple different cities, and then I went back over for a tournament last week to Sweden,
Right.
and then Canada last month. Yeah, I've done a ton the last 2 months. It's pretty cool.
That is really cool. So, so you've been through the podcast. So you did one a day. Have you done all of them now? Then you caught up.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty much caught up with all of them. Yep. And then the audiobook I listen to whenever I'm just driving. If I'm just bored or something, I'll just listen to it to try and stay on it. But now it's I actually did a simulator lesson the other day. They're pretty booked in Charleston where I live to do lessons. But I did a simulator lesson because she could get me in to do that, and that was pretty fun. So I think I'm gonna try and get like a private license just for fun. Because it's pretty cool to me now, just learning how it works. And yeah, that's really
That makes
interesting.
me laugh. A private license, just the fun. Why not? Is there any other better reason? You know.
Yeah, no, I was like, hey, if golf doesn't work out, I'm still young enough. I could go try and work for an airline or something.
Mm.
Um, it'd be pretty cool. And I my mom and I stayed at the airport in Stockholm last week for the whole stay. We were there for 10 days, and I would just sit there and just watch the planes take off explain to my mom, she was like, how does it even get off the ground? And I was telling her, basically what I knew about aerodynamics. And he's like, it doesn't look like it's going that fast. And I was like, I mean, what, 120 to 180, depending on how big it is. And that's it. And it was cool to explain that to my mom as well. While she was like, how are we getting up in the air right now? And I was telling her, I was like, it's just aerodynamics. That's all it is. It was cool.
You've turned into like a bit of a, we call it a nerd, I don't use that.
No, big time. Yeah, no, big time. I definitely, it's really cool.
Oh, that's great. So talk us through then what your kind of, if you had some sort of like, I mean, one of the things you said in your notes was that there is no sort of like magic bullet, but what would you say is the secret of your success?
I would say you can't, like, all these fear of flying programs out there, like some of them, like the Soul one's $500, and your podcast and like your plan, your 30 days are way more affordable for people. And that helped me the most. Just staying on it every single day was what helped me, I think. You can't just do the class, do a like easy fly or easy jet class and then just be done with it. And then say, okay, in 3 weeks, I'm going on a plane, I'm gonna be cured. To me, for me, it just didn't work that way. I had to do something every day to kind of always keep in the forefront of like, this is how it works.
Yeah.
This is why it's safe. And you just have to commit. And it also was like, I'm going to do it if it kills me. I just had to have the motivation of like,
What an interesting sentence.
no, I think that was it as well. I was like, my parents like, you don't have to fly. And I was like, I don't want to live like that. This could go on for 30 more years. And then I've missed everything, and I was like, I got to do it now and just accept that it's going to be really uncomfortable for maybe a couple trips.
Yeah.
But it'll get better.
Yeah. So, I mean, this music to my ears, this sort of like try stuff every day. Totally agree with that.
Yeah.
And that is our philosophy, which is why there's a lot of stuff available, and I'm pleased. So you were able to do the whole 30-day program and also the podcasts. I'm pleased to hear that, because I don't always know that who signs up for the 30-day thing, because once obviously CPR come up for that. And did you find that there was it was slightly different to the podcast, or is there a lot of duplication? Because obviously we don't know what, I've lost track now of what we've recorded on the podcast, so I don't know what I've said.
Yeah. I think it's a different kind of setup, I guess, because the podcast has more like people involved, or just like, I guess, people like me, whereas the 30 days is more of like, hey, let's understand how flight works, I think, is the big thing. It like happened, Steeple, his episode as well as his part in that program was very helpful to understand how flight works and all of the safety behind it. So I think having both is important.
Yeah.
But and you just got to do it every day. And that's why I think the podcast and the 30-day program is good, because you're hammering it every single day. You're just not letting it go. Like, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to just keep doing it until it works.
Yeah, I like that. And I think there's something about what your approach has been, that sort of determination to just keep going, which I think is brilliant. But I was also wondering if there's any kind of episodes or anything that just where there was a turning point for you, or you get those aha moments. Any of those?
Yeah, I don't know the numbers. So your audiobook is big, because I think the way you do it is just like kind of making jokes. Like when you always say a near death experience, surviving the takeoff and near death experience, it just makes me laugh, because I'm just like, that is exactly how you think about it when you're flying at first. And then you start to realize, like, God, how was I ever this way? But so that makes me, that's a good one when Captain Steeple's on, and that's a good one. And the other ones with Ita, when she kind of talks through her story of like how she's gone from basically being scared to, okay, she can fly a plane now. That one's really helpful, because it's like, it is possible. And then the woman that said, I feel bad not remembering her name, but she said doing it every day was what basically cured her. Listening to podcasts every day cured her. And I was like, that's where I was like, this is what I got to do. And then the Turbulence podcast.
Sorry.
Yeah. sorry, and the episodes that you have early on from like 2020 about like the turbulence and like facing your fear, those kind of shorter ones where it's just like, hey, this is what you got to do. You got to face it, and this is what
Mhm.
turbulence is. It's movement of air, and yeah, I just kept listening to those over and over.
Gosh, it's funny. I don't go back to it. I mean, I've said this many times. I don't go back to it because it's just cringe. But also, I didn't have the, some of the kit I've got now to edit. I didn't have that then. I just did it on my that. So that music.
No,
So,
but they were.
w-
That's
well, someone said to me, just start because you can overthink things, and get analysis paralysis and think it's got to be just perfect. But there's a phrase which is like, good is the enemy of great, or great's the enemy, whichever way it is. But you just like, I guess
100%.
something out which is 80% there is better than doing none. So
Yeah.
that was kind of the philosophy to begin with.
No, I mean, it's like it's helped me. Like I can never really thank you enough, I guess, because I
Well,
don't know if I ever would have done it because I've done all the fear of flying classes that promised like, SOAR promised great results and like they all promise great results. But then yours, it's funny because you don't have these like crazy lines of like, we're gonna fix you instantly or like buy our program and you're gonna be fixed. It's just like come try it and then you stay on it and it worked. Whereas the other ones that was a lot of advertising and it really sucked me in to just, buy them and just go through them. And I was like, I don't really, yours was the one that actually changed me and like actually helped me.
I'm just going to pause there for a moment. I still love the girls. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I do. I find that really interesting because I do see these sort of outlandish claims. And when I was first looking at the sort of information marketing seminars years ago, they always say, always put a guarantee on these things and stuff like that. Well, I know, I felt really uncomfortable with that because a lot of these do that, don't they? And they say, your money, if it doesn't work, we give you your money back. And I just thought, well, yeah, but I can't keep saying that to people if they don't play anything. I've had people that contact me, like a year after they bought it and said, "Oh, I've got a flight next week. Can you send through the links again?" I'm like, "What? Like bought it a year ago. For goodness sake." And this is there are, don't they? Need a bit of your approach, which is just to keep chipping away at it. But I guess people, can do what they can do. So I'm not judging them. It's just like I think you've got to do what you do and just do a little bit every day.
I mean, you can just, a lot of people that come on your podcast will say the same thing of like, I do it when I'm driving. Or like if you're bored, someone said like, I do it when I think she said cleaning or cooking and whatever. It's just like you can do that. And yeah, I don't know. I just think that's the easiest way because it's always kind of playing in your head. Whereas the ones where you're like the EasyJet ones or the Let's Four, it's like you watch these videos, you just consume them for like 3 hours. Great. And then you're just like, all right, I'm fixed. And then you get to the flight and you're like, wow, I'm not even close to being fixed. I'm not going to get on the plane.
Yeah.
So that's why I think, you know, just kind of listening to it every day would do
Well,
something
thank
really
you.
good.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's been a bit of a tough one really because I know having run those like the EasyJet, I ran the Virgin one, which was a 1 day affair, and you get a lot of people through, and it's a bigger business than what we've currently got. But I do believe that the chipping away at it is well. I've also it's more evidence based around that. But it's a tough one sometimes because you sort of when people come on the Facebook group and go, "Oh, I've just done the EasyJet course." What you go, "Oh,
Yeah. I feel bad saying it because, yeah, I feel bad because I know you used to do the Virgin Atlantic course, which, you know, I feel bad knocking on any of the kind of, but for me at least, it was just, you have to do something constantly to try. It's like a process, as you've said, you have to reteach yourself the other way to think about it. You can't just buy this program and expect, $300 later that, all right, I'm fixed. It's like, I can do that, but I have to, if I'm going to buy this program, I need to keep listening to it every day or so. Whatever you do, I think is just a daily grind.
yeah." And probably like, I mean, if I make a crude link to your world of golf, it's like
Yeah.
improvements you have to work at it every day, don't you, to get better at what you do, to become a habit.
exactly. I think it's like working out or practicing whatever. I think it's you just have to keep practicing. It's not like I'm gonna flip a switch and then I'm fixed. It's just I got to keep grinding on it, and eventually I'll look back and say, "Wow, look how far I've come."
Yeah, no, that's good. Well, I mean, you're a good endorsement for that. So, I mean, it's just think if you hadn't got over the fear. I mean, I don't know. Assuming you are over it now. I don't know where you are.
No, wait.
Could have had quite an impact, couldn't it?
No, yeah, it basically was last April we were going to Phoenix, and it was kind of like looking at the plane. I was telling my parents, I was like, I don't know if I can do this right before we got on. And it was kind of like I told my dad when we got there, I was like, what would you have said to me if I didn't get on the plane? He's like, I was going to tell you to quit playing. And my girlfriend was on me because, she likes to go places, and her family, they just went to Africa last year, in which I bailed on because of the flying. We had a big trip to India scheduled with my family, with my girlfriend, canceled that. I mean, I must have canceled 15 trips last year.
That's gutting, isn't it?
No, yeah, and it was all my fault. Like we were supposed to go to India like in 2 weeks, for 2 weeks, in 2 weeks, and I was like, Dad, I'm not doing it. I don't want to get sick or some excuse I made up, but it was my fault, and I was just like, I can't be that guy anymore.
No, that's a great way to think about it. And also sometimes it helps to have those things. As you know, if you've listened to the podcast, I've banged on enough. It's sometimes helpful to have something to be annoyed about, because it gives you fuel, doesn't it, to go, right, that's,
Yeah.
and there's no consequences. Why would anybody do anything?
Right. But yeah, 100%. And the other thing I thought of was, like I said earlier, like, I'm going to do it if it kills me. Of like, hey, it's not to be morbid, but like, eventually we're all not going to be here anymore. So you might as well just go do it. And if you're supposed to die, then like, you're going to die. It sounds really morbid, but I'm like, just go and
I agree.
just get on with it. It might feel uncomfortable, and you might feel like you're going to panic, but like, you're not going to die from the panic, you know? Just just do it and let it feel uncomfortable, but just do all the stuff and it will get better.
Yeah, I like that. So how long do you think it took you from from that moment you said, right, that's it, to get into a point where you would say, actually, I'm absolutely fine now. What was that sort of time period?
Honestly, probably not that long, a couple months, 2 months maybe.
Wow.
From when I because like I had been flying for the past year, but like I would kind of listen to some podcasts, I'd get through the flight, and then I'd be like, all right, we're good for another 6 months. And until I have to face another one. And then finally, when I knew this vacation was coming this year to Europe, I was like, Dad, I gotta get on the plane. Uh, Otherwise I'm gonna have to cancel this trip, and like I'm gonna be in pain. My we're gonna be unhappy, and I gotta get on, planes in Europe. So then I was like, all right, let's just do a month of podcasts, all the stuff I can do with that. And then let's do some domestic flights. And a month and a half later, I feel like I'm completely normal.
So no, nothing at all. No anticipatory anxiety. No.
No, yeah, it used to be like 2 months ahead. I'd have dreams of crashing. I'd just have images in my mind of just like panic on a plane or crashing, but mainly just panicking. And now it's like I didn't even think twice about getting on the plane to go home yesterday in Sweden. I didn't think twice about getting on the CRJ.
Literally didn't think twice about it. You just did it.
No, I just got on and I was like just ready to be home. They said it was actually funny yesterday. They were like, it's gonna be probably pretty bumpy, which you never really know, as you always say, because it was actually really smooth. But I was kind of like looking forward to a little bit of the bumps because like this would be good. Like, keep on it, I guess. Keep exposing yourself to the bumps. We flew through not through, but on the side of this hurricane about a month ago. We were going to Amsterdam. We flew to Detroit to connect. It's from Orlando, and it was like some of the worst turbulence I've ever had. But it was actually kind of fun because you're like, yeah, you know what? This is going to make me better, because then when I go for the light turbulence, it won't feel like anything. I mean, it was crazy. And then like to Amsterdam was an A350, and it was so bumpy, but I was like, yeah, this is going to make you better. This is how you train the techniques of breathing through it, and then you're fine.
There you go. You see, well, you're a fantastic advert courses, but you're also just an advert that just determination and just keeping going. And I like your attitude there that that this is a good way to experiment, isn't it? So it's all well and good.
Yeah.
I used to sell customer care training. You know, you can train anyone to say what does anyone can do customer care in a room talking about it, but when you got some horrible customer in front of you screaming at you, can you still do it then? That's when
That's what it really counts. That's where it really counts. That's why, like, I don't even want, you don't want a smooth flight. Like, yeah, you can say you're hopeful for it, but eventually the turbulence.
they want a smooth flight. Imagine saying that.
I mean, eventually, it's gonna come. So if you get lucky and have a 2-hour flight and there's no bumps, and you think I thought I was fixed, like you're gonna get the bumps eventually, the turbulence. So you might as well just go accept it and get ready for it.
Yeah, I say people write, you say it was a good flight, and what they mean is that it's smooth. And I think you've got to be a bit basic about it and say a good flight is one that has the same number of takeoffs and landings. And
That's exactly what I always remember hearing you say that, or saying like we landed, and it's always like, oh, we had a bad flight. It's like, did you crash? No, then your flight was fine. But I used to say that as well. I was like, oh God, it was so bumpy. But it's like, if you landed, if you took off and landed, like it's fine, you know. That's just how it is. And the other thing I will say that helped me early on was if you're getting really bad turbulence, I would just shut my eyes and kind of imagine I'm driving down the bumpy road, and like really convincing myself. That helped early on because there was like, oh, it's a bumpy road, but really seeing it kind of helped. And then watching a lot of like videos on YouTube of just like people taking off from the cockpit, or just seeing like a video through turbulence from the cockpit and just seeing how, I mean, nothing's really happening. You're just kind of going, you're riding the air.
because
Those are helpful.
people imagine also is that they imagine the pilots at the front wrestling the controls and they're just sat in this car. That's a bit annoying.
Yeah, that was helpful for sure. Just kind of remembering.
Any you recommend?
I mean, you can just type in like YouTube cockpit takeoff, and then I just would watch those over and over. Like there's so many of them out there from like taking on a GoPro or something. Like I also like, my dad doesn't like TikTok, but I watch a lot of TikToks and they're all just like flying videos of guys that are like day in my life as a pilot. And it's like, this is me waking up, this is me taking off. And I'm like, it's so interesting to me to see how they go about it. And they have some cool videos of them flying and from like flying when they're cruising. And it's cool to see, what it looks like up there. I asked a flight attendant the other day if they could take a video for me, and asked so the pilot took a little video while he was flying the plane to wherever we were going. And it was cool to see kind of what they're doing, which is really not much.
Yeah.
No disrespect, but it's pretty, seems pretty chill once you.
So I talked to Steve, Captain Steve. I said,
yeah, no, it's all, sorry about that. But I think once you're going, it seems like it's a pretty, you just got to monitor everything, I guess. I'm not a pilot, but still.
Yeah, exactly that. Most of them will talk about it, that they're managing the flight.
Yeah.
Managing flight systems because there's so much stuff in there. And, double checking and keeping themselves alert and just thinking about what ifs all the time, and I just, those are that's their job, isn't it? So we don't.
Instead of like when it's bumpy, I'm like, I used to imagine them just being like, oh my God, like, let's get this thing under control, or, we're going to lose control here. And I was like, no, they're more of just like, hey, can we, maybe slow the plane down, and then can we change our altitude and see if we can get a better ride? If not, put the seatbelt sign on.
That's exactly.
But you got to learn it though. That's why I listened to all your podcasts. I wouldn't have known any of that.
Yeah. Well, thank you. That's very kind. I really appreciate that. Your kind words and stuff, and the fact that you're kind of proof that these continued effort works. But the other thing I'll say, in fairness, although these other places may sort of cost more and they may be promising the world and you might not feel it's helped, I don't think any of it's wasted. I think it's all just a process of finding the thing.
Yeah.
Like you sort of investigate and then you go and you do that. It's a bit like Google search, and you keep finding the thing you want. And I think that's what you've done. So I don't think it was wasted. I mean, maybe it wasn't wasted.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely wasn't. It definitely wasn't cheap. And I guess what I would say is, I think I could have gotten to this place without it. But it wasn't. I don't think any of them did me wrong. Like they were all basically saying the same thing. but they had huge claims. And you know, your podcast didn't say like we're gonna fix you if you listen to 10 episodes. You just basically put it out there and said, come if you like. And that that is actually what helps the most. And you know, I didn't ever think I would really ever get on a plane again. I thought I was like kind of preparing myself to live just even like 6 months ago. I was like, how am I going to really live life and just ever leave, just drive everywhere? And I was like, I don't know. I kind of resigned myself to it though. And then just said, no, I'm going to do it if it kills me.
Yeah. That'll be our strap line. I could do it. I mean,
You might as well, I guess, it's like, why not? It was kind of my thought. Otherwise, you know, you're not saying yourself,
sorry, I think I was going to say, give us your big kind of like, what's your sort of I always ask for the biggest top tip, the gold, what would yours be to anyone listening thinking, oh yeah, it's all right for you, Raj, you.
Yeah, see, that was what I used to think about everyone. I was like, oh, it must be nice to be them. Like they can just be magically fixed.
But I know, all can be annoying like the rest.
Yeah, I used to get so annoyed. I'd be like, man, like it must be nice to be them, but I'm different. I'm never going to be fixed. My fear is different. I saw this specialist and they said I've got past trauma or whatever. And I would just say, you're not different. You might have a different, like I fear turbulence or I fear takeoff the most or I fear this the most, but it's like, bottom line is we're all pretty much the same and we can all get better because I thought there is no way I was ever going to fly again. And anyone else that came on here, I was like, they must not have it as bad as I do. So my top tip would be you listen to the podcast, you listen to all of them, you listen to them constantly. You get through all of them or you get through whatever, you just keep replaying them. If you like certain ones, bookmark it and download it so you can listen to it on the plane. That's what I did with like the audiobook and some of the ones that really stuck with me.
That's great though. That's a nice, I like that because I think we all have this sort of idea that we're somehow we've got things. Yeah. I mean, we all have our like gifts and stuff, and talent. But yeah, I do agree. I think we are kind of like, we're all pretty much the same. You just get into bad habits and then we have to do something about it, just try. I mean, it's not downplaying the severity of it. I do get it, but it's just,
Yeah.
I think it is like, rather than putting it up there, like going, oh, it's this thing, I'm never going to, take it down here and kind of look at it and go, well, right, what am I going to do about it? This is what I'm stuck with.
Yeah.
Right. What am I do next? And then do something, keep doing what you've done, which is just keep doing stuff and pursuing things, being curious,
Yeah. And I think understanding that the first couple flights probably will not be very fun. Like you're probably not going to get on the first one and be like, all right, I've been doing this for a month and I'm supposed to be fixed. I'm not fixed. I think just understanding it might take a couple trips to really feel like more comfortable, but like, I don't think you should take any anti-anxiety medicine. Like don't drink, all the basic stuff. Don't try and numb it. Like it's almost like welcome that nervousness, like really bring it on so you can try and get better from it. Otherwise you're cheating.
Yeah.
Don't numb it away because you're not going to get anything out of that flight.
Yeah. Yeah, because a few people have said, one of their coping strategies has been sort of like put a hood up and put their noise cancelling headphones on, just disappear into their own little world, which is fine if you never want to get any better at it, but you've got at some point kind of take the headphones off, look around, be present, and go towards. And I think that's it. I think numbing is a good way of putting it. Actually,
that's what I did. The first couple was I would put the headphones in, put on that Captain Ron audio, and I would just shut my eyes. And then I was like, no, because this is not gonna help in the long term. So if it gets bumpy, don't like tighten your body and try and fight it. Like honestly, just take the drops, take the bumps, and fully just take it all in. Because then the next plane will be easier.
Yeah, I think you're right, and you got to do that because if you go on a flight and then all of a sudden your headphones don't work, then you're screwed, aren't you? All these things, like just all these little safety systems you've built up for yourself, then they're not there. Then you're like, oh crap, I'm actually here now and I've got to deal with it.
forget something, you know, you forget the hoodie and then you're like, oh my God, I can't do it.
No hoodie, no flight.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to be in that spot.
So if you take your really positive message, you know, like, I'm going to do it if it kills me.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that is, I guess, the attitude you got to get to of like, hey, I don't want to live like this anymore.
Mm.
Yeah.
You'll love it. It's our strapline. Do it, even if it kills you. Lovefly.
Yeah, that I saw that somewhere on like a Reddit forum, and they were like, I kind of just accepted that I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna die someday, and I was like, you know what? That's right. I'm gonna do it if it kills me. That was it. Just kind of said I gotta keep doing it no matter what.
No, well, you're great evidence of that. And also, I think, so what do you reckon then, you know, like going forward in terms of fear of flying, what's your kind of next steps now you feel like you're much further on than you were?
Yeah, no, I think I just want to like help. So my mom has like a pretty not severe, like she just doesn't. I want to help her get better at it, but like for me, I don't really think about it. I mean, I'll probably still listen to the stuff and like still just to stay on it, but I want to yeah, I think probably just help like my mom that has kind of a fear, probably teach her what I did to try and help me, and then um I have a couple friends that I know that are actually kind of scared of it, and so I want to see if I could kind of show them what it was helping me at least, and see if that works for them, which is basically just try and listen to this every day.
That's brilliant.
Um, but yeah, yeah, and I want to do the flying lessons. I want to try and do the license. The Noel Phillips guy as well, by the way, he's pretty fun. I know you had him on, and when you had him on, I was like, man, I've been watching this guy on YouTube for a while.
Yeah,
He's cool.
right. He was, and what I like about him is because you know, he's got a big deal now. But I messaged, and he literally got back to me within about 24 hours and said, "Yeah, I'm up for that." And I just thought that was really impressive because other people we've messaged and you get ghosted, or you might. There's a lot of like things to jump through, you know. Just oh yeah, people are sort of zero people, and they have a preliminary conversation.
Oh my gosh. No, that's what, yeah, that was, he seems so nice in like his YouTube videos when he came on. That makes sense that he's just like that. He's so funny to watch on, you know, goes and all of his.
I watched a couple. He's brilliant. He is brilliant. He's just so relaxed about it all, isn't he? You know.
Yeah, he's the ones where he's like, I took this when he took the Lion Air in Indonesia or something. I was like, he really just, you know, goes for it always. It's so funny. He loves it.
Yeah, he was great, a very inspiring guy, and yeah, I was really grateful to get him on. So, thank you, Raj. That's been brilliant.
Yeah.
You have like major success in your golfing career as well, because obviously that our podcast's even more valuable.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, we had him on.
I'll try and I'll try and play a little bit better. I did okay in Sweden. I missed by like 3 shots, but it was fine. So I'll be all right. But yeah, I mean, I just hope that for anyone that feels like they can't get better, that they know that they can.
Nice. And I think we'll end there. Thank you very much. That's brilliant.
Thanks a lot. So, all right. Well, thanks for having me on and everything.
Pleasure. No, absolute pleasure. And thank you for being such an avid follower of everything. Crikey.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, thanks, Paul.